It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Sounds good.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege to interview the Guilford College head women's basketball coach, Coach Sarah Mathews. How are you doing today?
Good. How are you doing today, Brandon?
I'm doing good. Can you talk about how you knew that you wanted to get started in coaching in college women's basketball?
Yeah, my dad is actually a men's college basketball coach. He coaches at a junior college, and he's always coached ever since I was born. So I kind of just grew up in a gym, going to practice games, traveling to games with him, or recruiting or scouting. And I just kind of fell in love with it. I got to see his relationships with his players, and I said, you know what, I want to do that someday. So really, ever since I was a kid, I knew I wanted to do something in athletics, and just got lucky with some great opportunities out of college.
What was your collegiate time like getting to play college basketball?
Yeah, so I played at Mohawk Valley Community College up in Utica, New York. A 2-year school. Absolutely loved it. I had a great experience. I finished our record, I think, was like 66-3. We won a lot of games, but I played for a really good college coach. And I learned a lot from him. A lot that I do today comes from Coach Allison. But I had a great experience, learned a ton, a lot of fun. And then I went on, actually, I was going to play UNC Pembroke down in North Carolina. I ended up transferring. And then I transferred to UNCG, and I had some family in Greensboro, and knew I wasn't a Division I basketball player. I certainly recognized that, but I was lucky to jump on staff and be a student manager and continue my growth and learning. I worked under Coach AG, who's a legendary coach at UNCG. I think she's won over 600 wins. And just learned a ton. And, I said, I want to be really involved, and she let me be as involved as I wanted to be. So a really good experience. So, I didn't play my last 2 years, and, there are certainly days that I regret that. But again, I think it kind of helped me get my college career, moving in the right direction with college coaching.
What was that experience like getting to put on that jersey for Mohawk Valley?
Really special. They traditionally have a really good women's basketball program. So something that I talk to my kids about all the time now, our players, is, when you put on that jersey, it's about something way bigger than yourself. The tradition of the program, the alum, everybody that's helping our program. So I just, every game was really special, and never took it for granted. That's for sure.
As a player, what was that transition like from going from being a player to a student manager for UNC Greensboro?
Can you repeat that? I'm sorry, there was a
Mhm.
glitch.
As a player, what was that transition like going from being a player to then going to UNC Greensboro to be a student manager?
Yeah, certainly a transition, because I wasn't involved in practice every day, and I wasn't competing on game days. So definitely a transition there. But Coach Gigi was really good. She let me get involved in practice and get involved with drills and the scout team and stuff like that. So I was still able to put on my sneakers and play and get some of that competition daily. So certainly missed it on game day, but I was doing my part in other ways on game day to help the program. So.
What were some of the things that you learned as a student manager to help you get started in your coaching career?
Yeah, well, like I said, I wanted to be involved as I could. Like, I just wanted to soak up, and Division I was new to me. So I wanted to see how things were done on the Division I level. So I told Coach AJ I want to be really involved. So she let me be involved with scouting. So I got to break down film and watch film. I thought that was really neat. I had never really done that as a player. I had a coach break it down for me. Well, now it's the other side. Recruiting, like some of the basics in recruiting and watching film and evaluating. I got to learn from some of the assistants, what they're looking for and what they evaluate, and their different mailings, and talking to parents and stuff like that. I assisted with travel, all that, those little like administrative things. So I learned a ton. It was an awesome experience. A lot of things that I had never known before, all those behind the scene things. As a player, you just show up and you get on the bus and you go, but there's so much that goes on behind the scenes. So it was really cool to see all that. And again, from a Division I level, I thought was really neat.
What was your experience like getting to go to Guilford Tech Community College and becoming the assistant there?
Yeah, so my college coach, Coach Allison, actually took the Guilford Tech job after I left Mohawk Valley. So I not only got to play for this amazing coach, I then got to coach with him as an assistant. And again, he was really successful, just like he was at Mohawk Valley. He was really successful at Guilford Tech too. My year with him, we did win, I think, the Region 10 championship, which was really cool. But again, kind of like being a student manager, you're a player. So I saw one part of being a player. And then when you're a coach, you see all the behind the scenes stuff that I didn't know Coach Allison did. So it was really cool working with him and learning from him. And I think also as a player for him, sometimes players are kind of selfish. I'm just focused on my relationship with him. But as a coach, I got to see his relationships with all of his players. And I learned so much. He's just really good. Players love playing for him. He really cares for his players. So I learned a lot about that, some of that, relational stuff. That was really neat. So it was really cool. So I got to play with him for 2 years, and then I got to coach with him for a year. But we had a blast, both, as a player and a coach. I really enjoyed working with him.
What was that transition like from you from going from the community college coaching to then going to Elon to become the director of operations?
Yeah, a lot different. Obviously, JUCO to Division I. I'm lucky I had a little bit of experience at UNCG prior to that. But I got to work with a really good coach, Coach Karen Barefoot, who had moved on after to Old Dominion and UNC Wilmington. Really successful, but her time at Elon, she was really building something good. So I came in year 3 where she kind of laid a foundation. Elon was really on the up and up. I think that season, she had the most wins. Like the program was just growing. She was doing a great job recruiting, and learned a lot from her. And as a Dobo, again, kind of like a student manager, you have a hand in every facet of the program. So, one day I'd be helping out with alumni relations. The next day I would be breaking down film. Next day, I couldn't go out on the road and recruit, but I'd be doing a lot of the behind the scenes recruiting type stuff. Travel, scheduling. So it was a great experience at Elon. Again, being a Dobo, I recommend everybody, like if you can start out being a Dobo, you will learn so much. And it was a really good experience for me early in my career.
Of course, what were the things that you learned from Coach Karen Barefoot to help you into your coaching career?
Yeah, Karen is an unbelievable motivator. Anybody who meets Karen, like that's the first thing you'll notice is she's just so positive and upbeat. She makes you feel really good about yourself, when you walk into a room. And so I just took like some of those characteristics, like just being really positive and building players up and making them feel good, and building up your assistants and, just relationships with alums and your administrators, your boss, and having a good relationship with them, to your student managers, your GAs, everybody that helps your program, like really building them up. And I think that was a big part of why that Elon program got better and better, is because she was just so good with relationships. So I learned a lot about, and I still try to be as positive as I can today in my coaching. And I learned that all from Karen. She's really good. And first thing, when you meet her, you're like, man, she's got a lot of energy. And I just really admired that.
How was that experience like getting to go to Guilford College and become the head coach there?
Yeah, so that was my first head coaching experience. And I was coming in, the program was a little bit depleted. They had graduated 2,000-point scores the year prior. So they kind of, dumped out a lot of talent. So I knew that we were going to be super young, but I was excited and I was young and hungry. And I knew the program was really good in the past. So Cuco women's basketball could be good again. So we built something. And, I always say nothing good comes overnight. Like no success comes overnight. You just got to build and take steps and just keep working hard day after day. And so I think we built something really good. Each year our record got a little bit better. If I had stayed an additional year, we ended up going to the NCAA tournament. So if you look at that 4-year span, like we got a lot better and it was really exciting. But, not every day was easy. You certainly had your setbacks, but we really just built something good, like a really good foundation. And so I was excited to kind of change the program, the culture there. It was a really good experience for me.
Of course, what were some of the things that you took from your time first as a head coach there to then come over to Guilford College to become their next head coach?
Yeah, I think kind of like I said, to build a program, it takes time. It takes several years. I think a lot of people think it's just an overnight fix, but you've got to recruit players who, fit your culture and your core values. And that certainly takes several recruiting classes. And, especially you might take some programs over that, are a little bit depleted, and you just got to have faith in what you're doing. And, and know that you're doing stuff the right way. Because like I said, losses are going to come those first couple of years with some depleted programs, but you just got to stay positive and faithful to what you're doing. And that can be really difficult, but that's what I tried to do, and continue just recruiting players that fit my style. And one big difference between Coach Flamini and I is style. So she's been really successful here in a totally different style than what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to help some of the players that she recruited understand my style and what I'm trying to do. And they've certainly bought in. I've been very lucky because that didn't have to happen. They could have said, I'm skipping this, Coach Mathews. I'm not buying in, but they did, and just continue recruiting players that also fit that up-tempo style of what we're trying to do. So it's been a great experience here at Guilford.
What was that feeling like, honestly, becoming the next head coach at Guilford and taking over from what Coach Feeney built?
It was really exciting. Again, I went to UNC Greensboro, so I had lived in Greensboro as a college student here a little over a decade ago. Loved being a college student in this area. Greensboro, I think, is one of the most underrated college cities in the country. Within city limits, we've got 7 different colleges. And then even like within an hour, we've got High Point and Elon and Chapel Hill and, Wake Forest. So it's just a great college area. So I've always admired the Greensboro area. I've always admired, even when I was here at Guilford, I did a lot over here, even when I was a student at UNCG, coming over to their library, doing research, coming to games, even as a UNCG student. So I've always admired Guilford. And so for me, I just felt really lucky when I was appointed the head coach here. It was something I was really exciting about. It's a great school, good reputation. And obviously both men's and women's basketball have been really successful in the past. So very exciting.
Of course, as you talked about that, what was that feeling like, getting to come back home to the Greensboro area to become the coach?
Yeah, just really special. I knew that this is a place you can really win. And I've only been here for 2 years, so we're still building, that's for sure. We haven't gotten there yet. But I had a gut feeling that this is a place you could really win. You could do it the right way with good people, good students. We have phenomenal academics here at Guilford. So just had a really good feeling that, this is the place that I needed to be.
As a head coach, how has that process been like, getting to build the coaching staff around you and the players around you?
Good. Like I said, it's definitely a process because the prior players were more walk it up. They would run sets through like their post players, which is kind of the opposite and antithesis of what we do. And I'm not saying either one is better. Coach Flamini's obviously been really successful with her style, but I want to press for the entire game. I want to press for 40 minutes. I want it to be a little bit more of a track meet. I don't want to walk it up and run sets if we don't have to. If we never have to run a set, I won't do that if we can score in transition or score off of our defense. So it's a process implementing your style. It's not something in a season that you can do. It takes several seasons. Like I said, it took for the current players to buy in. I got really lucky. They're great kids. They bought in pretty early. And then continuing in my recruiting classes to recruit players that fit that up-tempo style, because it's certainly not for everybody. But I'm very honest in the recruiting process that it might not be for you, but if it is, you could be pretty good in it. So it's a process. I think that's the best way to put it.
Of course, for you, what was that feeling like the first time you got to step onto the Guilford court for the first time?
Really special, a little bit surreal. Sorry about that. Like I had mentioned, I had always admired Guilford, and I just felt really lucky when I was fortunate enough to get this job and be the head of this program. So, like I said, a little surreal, but just, and I know I've used this word a lot, but just exciting. I knew in my gut that this could be something really special here. We could do something special. So, and I think that's what we're trending toward.
What was that feeling like for you to get that first head coaching win for Guilford?
Felt really good. More for our players though, because our players work really hard. They're really, really good people. They do things the right way. So just exciting for the program, the alums that come back to our games, our fans. It's just, we have a whole community here and a whole family. So I was excited for them.
During your coaching career as the head coach for Guilford, what have been some of your biggest coaching accomplishments?
I think kind of like I'd mentioned, winning, but doing it the right way with the right people. Our players stay out of trouble. They're very involved in the community service. I think they're good campus citizens too. And then academically, this past semester we had a 3.4 GPA. Like that's that's really impressive. And it's bumped up a lot since I've been here. So it's little things like that. Like I'm just proud of our kids because of that. And then I just feel like basketball wise, wins kind of come and go. I don't pay too much attention to those, but I just think it's more of the people and the day-to-day relationships and things like that, that I'm probably going to remember.
Can you talk about, of course, the culture that you've started to build for the Guilford women's basketball program?
Yeah, I always say culture is when you walk into the gym for practice, or you walk into the weight room for weights, or your locker room, how do you feel? Do you feel really good? Are you excited? I know everybody kind of has a different definition of culture, but that's kind of culture to me. And that's important. I want people coming in, feeling excited, picking people up, just really positive atmosphere. And that's certainly fluid, what your culture is, because day to day things change. So every day I'm just trying to lift people up, make them feel as good as possible, create leaders in the locker room. So when I'm not there, maybe I have my back to somebody in practice, like, are they being really positive and picking people up and in the weight room and things like that? So it's a grind every day, just making sure that culture and picking people up and, they're feeling good, but something that we work on. Positivity is definitely a pillar of our program. I think any of our players would tell you that. We do a lot of things just to make sure we have a really positive atmosphere. So if you come into practice, you're like, man, I don't want to leave. I want to stay here. In fact, we've tallied in the past, a couple of years ago, one of our managers tallied how many positive interactions we had in a 2-hour practice. So positive interaction could be a high five, it could be a knucks, it could be maybe you knocked down a shot, somebody gave you a really good pass, you kind of give them a point, or even just verbally, just saying great job. And in a 2-hour practice, we had 835 positive interactions. And like, that's what I want every day. I want people coming in, just being positive with each other, saying great things, picking people up. Because I think wins will come with that. You know what I mean? If people are excited to play for you and play for each other, wins will come.
Who are some of the teams that you compete against in your conference?
Yeah, so our conference is the Old Dominion Athletic Conference. It is all Virginia schools and then us in Greensboro, North Carolina. So you'll see like Randolph-Macon, Bridgewater College, Shenandoah University, Lynchburg, Hollins University, Virginia Wesleyan and Virginia Beach. So we travel quite a bit, but it's a good experience, and it's kind of nice for non-conference games. I try to get as many North Carolina non-conference games so that we're not traveling as much in the non-conference season.
Of course, what is that home atmosphere like when those teams from Virginia, like Virginia Beach, come to Guilford?
I'm sorry, there was a glitch again. What is the home atmosphere like?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we have a really good crowd here at Guilford. Again, women's basketball, men's basketball have been very good. So we're lucky. I'm lucky coming into that. It has nothing to do with me. But we've got a great student population that come to games, and they're rowdy and they're amazing fans. We've got a lot of local fans too that, don't even necessarily know our players, but just come and want to come out and watch good women's basketball games, which is kind of cool. So I think just having like a good crowd really creates like just a peppy atmosphere. I think also our style of play certainly helps. We want to be really exciting. So our up and down tempo, like the crowd really gets into it. It's not just like a slow it down, walk it up, run a set, call a play. It's just very up and down. There's a lot of exciting plays and steals and tips and stuff like that. So I think that certainly helps too. It's a pretty good crowd.
How is that home game atmosphere like when teams from North Carolina, like UNCG or like Asheville, come to your home to play?
Yeah, we played at UNCG this past year. We had a great crowd. It was so much fun. And you would think UNCG is such a much bigger school, but we had a ton of Guilford faculty, staff, alums came out, traveled into town from all over the place. Recruits came out. It was a great atmosphere. So again, Guilford women's basketball has a really good tradition and just a good following, and I think that really helps. But we try to as well. We try to incorporate our alums as much as possible. We've got like alumni luncheons that we do throughout the year. Our alumni day and our alumni game is huge. We have a big event after. We do an alumni mentoring system that we do throughout the year. So we pair up all of our alums with players, and then they just stay in contact throughout the year. It's just like another person that our players can kind of lean on. So I think that connection and those little things we do really help. Alums want to come back and come to games and support us, and it's just really special.
What does that recruitment process look like as a head coach going out and recruiting those prospective student athletes?
Yeah, I think everybody's a little bit different, every program. My biggest thing is when I go out and I evaluate and I see a player that really fits that up-tempo style, I want to get them on campus because I think campus kind of sells itself. It's absolutely gorgeous. We have a beautiful quad, good facilities. We've got one of the best weight rooms in our league. We've got an amazing locker room too that's like tailored to each player in their locker. Um, so for me, my biggest thing is I want to get them on campus. And I know we're also going to talk about an official visit. When I get them on campus, I want them to meet our players. I think our players are by far our biggest selling point. I can tell a prospect, hey, our players are great. You're going to enjoy them. You're going to enjoy being in the locker room and playing with them. I can say that until I'm blue in the face, but I actually got to get you here on campus. You got to meet our players, sit down in the cafeteria, have a bite to eat with them. So that's my biggest thing is I go out, I evaluate, and then I want to get them here. I want them to get that whole Guilford experience. If they want to sit in on a class, they can, but take a tour, sit in on practice and meet our team because they're our biggest selling point. Really, really good people.
Of course, as a head coach, what is it like seeing those prospective student athletes on that official visit fall in love with the Guilford College campus?
I think it's really special because it's such a process, seeing them maybe in AAU or back their sophomore or junior year a while back, and evaluating them and to see them get on campus. And sometimes you just see things kind of click like, oh man, I really like that. That's, I like this about Guilford. And I think parents too, like sometimes parents will just come and they'll go on a million visits with their kids and they're not really paying attention, but sometimes you see it with parents too. And things just kind of click and you see the parent and the player kind of look at each other and kind of nod. And that's a really good feeling, knowing that that's a good fit and, it's a prospect that we might get to be a part of our program.
As a head coach, what is that like getting to see those freshmen put on that Guilford burgundy jersey for the first time?
Yeah, it's always a good feeling. Especially because like I had mentioned, the evaluation process starts way early, probably sophomore, junior year. And, you work your tail off and you finally get them on campus and then continue recruiting them and recruiting their parents and their families and their coaches. So it's just like, it's kind of like the culmination. It's pretty darn cool. But like I had mentioned, like I had learned in college, we talk about every time you put on that jersey, like it is not about you. It is about something so much bigger than yourself. It's, your team and the program and the alums and the faculty and staff that come to games and our fans. And so we make sure, especially our first game, like we talk about that. Like, this is such an exciting day, but remember, you're part of something so much bigger than yourself, and it's so special.
As a head coach, what is that like seeing those freshmen turn into seniors and putting that jersey on for the last time?
It's really special. I can tell you, I've had a couple different stops as a head coach. I've only been at one school long enough to be able to see that. But it is pretty darn cool, again, to go from that evaluation process. So it's like a 6-year process when you start seeing them and meeting their parents and just to see the growth and development and see them develop as leaders too. It's pretty darn cool. And then continue that relationship. Like even since then, that was probably 4 years ago when that happened. And now I get to see them in their careers and they're doing big things. So, I think a lot of people think, oh yeah, once they graduate, that's it. Well, no, I'm still talking to them all the time and seeing kind of the cool things that they're doing or, having families and stuff like that. So really neat experience. Definitely one of the perks of the job.
As a head coach, what is that experience like? Obviously, getting to see them go from being players to maybe going into the WNBA or even life after basketball.
Yeah, so I don't have any experience with WNBA. I have experience with professionally overseas, but like I had mentioned, to see them be moms or to see them, have relationships and go on and get married. A couple of our players are doing really big things in their career. It's just so cool to see. And then they'll talk about, hey, like leadership. You talked about female leadership a lot. And, I never really thought too much about it as a freshman or sophomore, but felt like I really developed and kind of came into myself, my junior and senior year. And now they're in leadership positions and, they're big girl jobs. And it's just really, really neat to see. And, they'll continue to develop too, but it's a lot of fun as a coach.
What are some of your future plans for the Guilford program moving forward?
Yeah, like I said, there's no such thing as an overnight success. So now, we're going into our third year. We want to continue trying to get better at our style of play. I implemented it a little bit last year. And then this past season, we pressed for most of the game. But like I had mentioned, continuing to recruit players that really take pride in their fitness, because it takes a lot to get up and down and get down in a stance. So just those baby steps of little things we're trying to do, get better at certain presses, tweak little things. We're always trying to get better defensively as well. Last year, I think we finished 9th in the country in steals per game and 8th in the country in forced turnovers. I know our players are really hungry. Like, they want to bump up in the polls. They want to get more steals. They want to force more turnovers. That's something that we talked a little bit about in the off season. So really just getting better at what we do. And what we do is pretty simple. We just want to press and force turnovers and get up and really defend. So that's kind of what our focus is this next season.
What advice would you give those freshmen entering their first year of collegiate basketball?
Yeah, I think fitness is really underrated. If you think about it, some of these freshmen coming in, they could be playing against fifth-year seniors, women that are 22, 23. You got to be in shape. Like, that's, if you want to put your best foot forward, you got to be able to get up and down. And like I mentioned, get down in a stance. You tend to shoot the ball better when you've got, more fit legs. So we talk a lot with our freshmen about fitness, core strength and getting up and down and cardio. And we just put a premium on fitness in our program, especially our style of play. And we kind of play like a track meet. But I think that is by far the most important. I think it's really underrated. Getting in the gym and working on your skills is important. Putting on some muscle mass, certainly important. But you got to be able to be in shape to get down in a stance, to defend, and get up and down the court. So that's in our program, that's what we talk about with all of our freshmen.
What advice would you give those seniors that are looking to go into playing professional basketball after their playing career?
Yeah, I just think work ethic. It's a grind. If you want to be a professional athlete and that's going to be your craft, I mean, you got to put the work in. You can't just be doing workouts once a day. It's going to be multiple times a day, working on, your skills that to get better, whatever your weaknesses are. And then again, fitness and strength. And, are you eating the right way? Are you eating properly? All that stuff. It's, if it's going to be your job and that's going to be your craft, and that's really important too. You got to make sure you put in the time and effort.
What advice would you give those college basketball players looking to get into coaching after their playing career?
Yeah, they might not want to hear this, but I think you have to pay your dues. I always laugh. My first couple of jobs, if you add up all the money I made, it doesn't even come close to what I make, in a year here at Guilford. And I'm not paid a lot of money here at Guilford, but I just had to pay my dues with some part-time gigs, but just to get my foot in the door. But I loved basketball and it was worth it. And I knew if I worked really hard that, maybe I could get a better job after that. And I was fortunate enough to do that and eventually become a head coach. But you just got to pay your dues. You might have to, be a part-time coach for a year or two, prove to the head coach, hey, I'm really good. And then maybe if somebody leaves, you'll get bumped up on staff to a full-time position. Or you might have to be a director of ops where you're doing a little bit of everything. You're working 24/7 for that program. But that if you do well, you might get bumped up to an assistant position. So I think just do your job really well and work really hard, and good things will come of it. But you're going to have to pay your dues in our career.
What advice would you give those assistant coaches looking to move on to become head coaches one day?
Yeah, I think definitely be yourself. I think so many people at times think they have to be someone else, like maybe a Bobby Knight or something like that. But I think you got to be yourself and know yourself when you go into that head coaching role. What are your core values? Like, what's important to you? What do you want your players to get out of it? You got to think about all that kind of stuff, but got to be yourself. Can't be anybody else. You're gonna have a lot of hard conversations and hard situations that you got to get through, and you just got to go with your gut. Like, sometimes you're like, I don't know which way to go with your gut, and pray about it, but be yourself. And I also think being an assistant with a bunch of different programs, like, I think that's really good advice, and learn a million different ways to do things, and then kind of take what you like from different coaches, whether it's X's and O's or things with relationships. And then also you'll see things that you don't really like, but you learn from that as well, things that you don't want to do when you're a head coach. So I think just going out, meeting a lot of coaches, picking their brains, being an assistant as much as you can, just helps you kind of learn what you like and what you don't like. And again, like I mentioned, what's important to you as a coach, being yourself.
What advice would you give those future head coaches looking to start building their own program and building their own legacy as a head coach?
Yeah. Kind of like I had said, a reoccurring theme is there's no such thing as an overnight success. So just being yourself daily, putting in the work, working hard in recruiting, knowing your style and what's really important to you, having an identity. I'd mentioned our identity is, we really push and transition. We try to be really fast. And all of my decisions, whether it's recruiting or the X's and O's, it's all based on this, what is my identity? Like what's really important to me, both basketball and then, me as a person. So again, knowing yourself and knowing your identity, I think is big. And just knowing it's, no overnight successes. You got to just keep grinding each and every day. And if you're doing things the right way, good things will happen.
That's great advice. Where can my listeners find you at on social media along with the Guilford women's basketball program at?
Yes. This is terrible. I'll have to get that to you. I'm actually, I'm not a big social media person. So we do have a presence with our assistant, but I'll have to get that to you. I don't know it off the top of my head. Brandon, I'm a little bit of an old soul, so I don't do a lot of social media stuff. I'm more of a talk face to face or maybe a text, but I can certainly get that to you.
Thank you again, Coach Sarah Mathews, for your interview, and best luck in your future with the Guilford College as the head women's basketball coach.
Thank you, Brandon. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Brandon Sports Talk, Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Coach Sarah Mathews, for your interview, and best luck in your future.
Thanks.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.